Speak on the show, episode 27, Saturday morning, baby, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Y'all ready? Let's get this thing going. Holla at me. Peace. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Saturday morning, y'all. I am your boy R.W. Coolins. Welcome to Speak On It. First and foremost, giving honor to God who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. Let me take a deep breath for a minute. We got some good mornings already. Good morning. OT, good morning, my brother. Good morning, good morning. 10 years, yeah, we're going to get into that in a minute. Don't rush me, bro. Don't rush me. Let's get these formalities out the way. rwcoolins.com. That's the website. You can go there and follow. Find all the links there. I'm in the process of updating the website, but you can go there and get all the links. Follow, share. Also, we're broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube this morning, as we always do. Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Tune in, share, get people to tune in, listen to what we're doing over here, participate, all that type of thing. We're also, after the show, you can download the audio on Spreaker.com or Apple iTunes. It's up to you which one you go to. On Apple iTunes, it would be to Speak on the Show. On all other social media platforms, it is R.W. Coolins. 844-904-2665. That's 844-904-2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. All we ask is say what you mean what you say. We come in as friends, we leave as family. That's what we do here. Once you call in, once you participate, once you watch the show, you are family from that point on. So that's what we do here on the Speak On It show. All we ask is say what you mean and mean what you say. Lady Michelle, good morning. Good morning. Appreciate the support. Thanks for tuning in. And now we get into it. 10 years, baby. 10-year anniversary show is next week, 24th September. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. All y'all in the middle. I don't know the time zones. I think it's 10, 9, 8, 7. There you go. 10 on the east, 9 in the, central, 8 mountain, 7 east, western. Let me get it right. 7 western. Tune in. Also, here's some information. 10 years on the air, baby. 10 years on the air. Contact information for OT. OTshow@live.com is the email. You can reach out to him, send him an email if you want to be a participant in next week's show. I don't know what all he's got planned, what all he planning to do, what are we going to talk about. I think it's going to be an interview type thing, but I'll let him talk to you about that if you want to be in. Also, you can contact him at 678-254-8557. That's 678-254-8557. Now, I'm giving out his phone number, but I'm say this right now. I'm not giving you this phone number for y'all to be stalking OT. I'm giving y'all the phone number to be a participant in the show next week. Let's just keep it real. OT don't need them problems. He don't need them problems. 678-254-8557. I know OT over there cracking up, wiping his eyes like he crying and carrying on because I said that. But hey, we're looking forward to the show next week. We're going to have a good time. That's what we're going to do. We're going to have a good time. We're going to come in, enjoy ourselves, talk some smack, do what we do all the time. Lady Michelle, amazing. Appreciate it. OT, wait. That's all right. They ain't going to call that much. You ain't got no stalkers. It is what it is. It's a straight talk, no chaser Saturday. Straight talk, no chaser Saturday. But before we get into this, I'm going to bring this up. It's the last weekend, last weekend of summer. This is the last weekend of summer, y'all. The last weekend of summer of 2022. The year's going by. We're in September, in mid-September. Christmas around the corner, Thanksgiving around the corner, all them holidays, they run back to back. We are at the end of summer as of next week, but this is the last official weekend of summer. Get out and enjoy yourself. It's a little chilly. Temperatures dropping and everything, especially out here, usually in the hundreds and everything. It's only supposed to be in like in the 80s or 90s. Y'all laugh about that, talking about the 80s, 90s, but wait a minute. When you go from 110 down to 95, you feel like you need a jacket. Just putting it out there. So enjoy this weekend. Go out, enjoy yourself, spend some time with family, everything. Because once it starts getting chilly, once it starts snowing, and the weather starts changing, we really don't want to be out and moving and doing all those type of things. So last full week of summer, enjoy it. Uh, get out and do some things. Walk, whatever you do, whatever you do. So let's go on and get into this. Where do I start? Let's start with the Queen. It's been all over the channels. We talked about it last week. I didn't go in depth, but here's something that I seen that just jumped out. So the Queen, they're having her body lay in state. People are standing in line, what they call the queue, for 13 hours or more to walk past the Queen's coffin or casket. There was a big discussion about whether it's a coffin or a casket at one time. I'm not getting into that. I'm not going into that. Something about the rounded top is one and the flat top is another. I don't know. But there are people standing in line over there in England for 13 hours. 13 hours. One of the people was David Beckham. David Beckham, the world-renowned soccer player from England, he was standing in line with the folks 13 hours. So they was out there eating, crackers and drinking water and having conversations and all that. 13 hours, y'all. I don't even want to work 13 hours, let alone stand in line for 13 hours. But this is their queen. This is their queen. This is what they choose to do. I'm not going to knock it. I'm just telling you what I'm reporting, what I read and what I've seen. But here's the other thing that I seen, because there's some turmoil again in the royal family. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Let's get the right titles right. Duke and Duchess of Sussex are a little upset because, when they decided to step back from the royal duties in 2020, the couple agreed not to use the style of Royal Highness in practice, but still legally retain the style, which is the title. So they have the title legally, but they don't use it in practicing on a normal basis. So they're not identified as the Royal Highness per se. I don't know all the ins and outs. I'm just giving you a little bit. But their children, Archie and Lilibet, are named Prince and Princess, but they will not attain the titles of Royal Highness as well. And they're a little upset about that because Royal Highness means that they would get security. When they decided to step back, you got to look, there's a whole lot of fallout from that. So you can't expect things to change just because you have children, the Queen has died, you think everything's going to change. Because, here's what I'll say in the Harry and Meghan situation, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. And I've said this before, and y'all have heard me say it before. Everyone will not agree with who you marry. Everyone will not agree with who you're in a relationship with. It just doesn't happen. When they made the decision that they were going to get married, they knew that there was going to be people that didn't agree. You got people that are still chastising the fact that she's biracial and all these type things, the way they treated her, all the back and forth about that. Just be aware that people will not always accept who you choose or what you choose to do, let alone who you choose to be in a relationship. I'm just going to leave it there. If you're in love and that's what you choose to do you. But don't expect everybody to accept it. And what they're dealing with now is trying to make them, or for them to choose to accept something that they just aren't ready to accept. Now, a lot of people would throw in the racism card and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, because I don't know their hearts. I don't know what they do over there. It is what it is. It is what it is. Faye Jackson, good morning, Shorty. It's your boy, RJ. Speak on it. Hey, good morning, bro. Good morning. Appreciate your support. Michelle Long, good morning. Good morning. Appreciate your support. Appreciate your support. I appreciate your support. I don't know why that was all flowing together. But with the Queen and everything going on over there, it's 24-hour news cycle. I mean, what can you do? What can you do? Now, let's come home for a minute. Mississippi. Mississippi is the poorest country in the poorest state, in the United States. I was going to say poorest country in the poorest state in the United States. They have a 19.6% poverty rate. They have the lowest average household median income of $45,792. Think about that now. The average household median income is $45,792 across the board. They were dealing with this brown water, you know, when the storm came through and something happened with the pumps and all this. So they say the infrastructure, impoverished neighborhoods that were majority black, because you know, also Mississippi has the largest black population of any state. But they were dealing with brown water, and I seen pictures of the water coming out and looked like mud coming out of the faucets, just mud. But to hear that there's an NFL football player, and I reported on this a while ago, that Brett Favre, NFL Hall of Fame football player, was taking money from the welfare fund. He was giving money from the welfare recipients fund in Mississippi, where the welfare recipients weren't getting the money. They gave him $1.1 million. And Brett Favre earned $140 million as an NFL quarterback. He earned $140 million, but he took $1.1 million through people giving it to him in the government there. Took $1.1 million in welfare funds that took away from the mouths of those impoverished people in Mississippi. Now, I've talked about this before. I'm not going to go in deep detail, but what I will say is there's a video out with Shannon Sharpe on Undisputed, and James Battle, not sure if he's listening this morning, but I appreciate you, Battle. He posted the video last week of what and how Shannon Sharpe broke it down as far as Brett Favre. If you get a chance, go look at it. If I find it, I'll post it on my page as well, so you don't have to search if you want to. But it broke it down in simple terms about the comparisons, which I don't like to do, but he broke down the comparisons about how Brett Favre is treated and then how T.O. was treated as far as in the media and different things like that. For y'all that don't know, T.O. is a wide receiver, played in the NFL, finally got in the Hall of Fame after so many votes, but he never did anything bad off the field, but they chastised him because he wasn't friendly to the media. It's the only reason he wasn't getting into the Hall of Fame at the time, because he wasn't nice to the media. Nothing saying. But there's a double standard when it comes to this. This man took $1.1 million from the impoverished people, and people aren't in an uproar about this. I don't understand it. I probably never will. But the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. No, by any means necessary, they're going to take their money. They're going to get their money. But let's transition for a minute, because I'm talking about this for a reason. This week, you have the Phoenix Suns owner, Robert Sarver. He's been suspended for 1 year, ordered to pay a $10 million fine. And what they found out through this investigation was there was a lot of misogyny and racism in the ranks in the Phoenix Suns organization. This ESPN story by Baxter Holmes that I read brought up one incident that they brought up in this that, for me, it caused me to pause for a minute. And I'm going to tell you exactly what it said. Phoenix Suns played back in October 30th, 2016. This goes back this far. In 2016, the Phoenix Suns played the Golden State Warriors. The Suns lost 106-100. After the loss, the Suns owner, Robert Sarver, entered the coach's locker room. Coach at the time was Earl Watson. He's of Black and Hispanic heritage. Sarver said to Watson, you know, why does Draymond Green get to run up the court and say the N-word several times in a row? He didn't say the N-word. He said the word. Because y'all know I don't use that. And then Watson came back and said, man, you can't say that. Sarver said, why? Draymond Green says, and he said the word again. Watson says, you can't effing say that. Now, this is one incident of where they said the racism came in or using derogatory terms and everything like that, as far as this atmosphere that was going on. And Robert Sarver felt comfortable saying these things because he was asking the question back in 2016, but obviously as time went on, he felt comfortable enough to use it in different spaces and everything like that. Now, we all are not ignorant to the fact that there's people that use this word consistently that aren't people of color. Let's just be honest about it. But I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a minute, because y'all know how I feel about this word. Y'all know I stand on the fact that I'm not comfortable with that word. I have my own reasons and my own standing about the N-word. But I will ask this question of Robert Sarver being suspended for 1 year, $10 million, people saying it should have been more because of all the things included, not just the N-word use, but all the things included: misogyny, sexual harassment, all these different things. But I would put it out there in this manner of, when he mentioned the fact that Draymond Green can run up and down the court on a basketball court in the arena in front of 50, 30, 20, 30, 40,000 people, where they may not hear it, but microphones are on each end of the court and everything. But if you got floor side seats, you can hear it. But for him to expressly throw out the N-word on a basketball game in that environment and everything like that, does Mr. Sarver have a point? I'm just asking the question. Does he have a point? Because this is a professional athlete that gets paid millions and millions of dollars to play a sport. And he's out there using this derogatory term that he feels comfortable using, but when someone that doesn't look like him uses it, he gets held accountable, or he gets chastised or looked down upon. Now, I'm not trying to defend Mr. Sarver, but what I am doing is putting it in your mindset to think about how this double standard works. Now, some people won't say it's a double standard. We use it as a term of endearment like that. Let that go. My argument to you would be, and not an argument, just something to make you think. When you go into a locker room, in most of these locker rooms, because most of the athletes are of African American Black descent. Let's just be real. No matter if it's basketball, football, baseball. Well, baseball is more Hispanic, Latino, hockey, different. You go in baseball, basketball arena, or you go around young kids nowadays. And the rap music that they play, the music they play in most of these locker rooms, they don't play, the edited version. They use the explicit version in most cases because they're trying to get hyped up for the games and all that kind of stuff. But the N-word is flying here and there in the music that they're allowing in these locker rooms where these athletes are participating. Now, in these locker rooms are also athletes of non-color who hear these words all the time in the music, and eventually, just like you and me, when you hear a song, you can pick up on the words eventually, and you sing the song the way the song is written without stopping at certain words so you don't say them. I'm trying. I'm getting better. So my observation, my thought process would say to you, what kind of example are we setting when we do this? The other part I'll put out there is this, and a lot of people won't agree with it, nobody's chiming in or anything, so I'm pretty sure y'all got your own thoughts about this. Probably saying, RW, you're going down the wrong rabbit hole here. Well, yeah, maybe. But I will also bring this point up here. Where was the people like Adam Silver? Where were the people over top of the music industry, the record label executives, and all these people when we had these lyrics in the rap music coming out that used the N-word frequently in the music, for them to say, wait a minute, we shouldn't be using that? But in turn, they profited off it. They made much, much profit off of the use of the N-words with the NWA, with the Eazy-E, with Snoop Dogg. All the rap you can think about it has gone on over years and years and years. These music executives have profited off this word being used in the music that they're producing. I'm just giving you something to think about. So we get caught up in Mr. Sarver and his situation on how he used it and asking the question and however else he used it. But we never asked a big question about ourselves as far as why we feel so comfortable still using this word, and they get mad when someone else uses it. I'm not saying they should be able to use it. I don't think we should be using it. And it's not a right or wrong. It's not a right or wrong answer per se, but it's something to make you think and wonder, wait a minute, are we being hypocritical when it comes to this? Should we be looking at this or should we just be banning the word from being used at all? Because I want you to think about this. And this just came to my mind, so y'all bear with me. If the government as far as our politicians and people running for office and the ones that are sitting in office right now can be so hell-bent about critical race theory and the 1619 Project, why have they been so silent about the use of the N-word in rap lyrics? Because right now, people are being held accountable for the rap lyrics as far as being charged with RICO charges, as far as what they've said in their rap, as far as what they may have done, committed crimes or anything like that. They're holding them accountable for that. But there has never been any legislation. There's been nothing done to abolish the N-word from the rap music at all. But they've done everything to try to rewrite history, remove books from classrooms, ban books from being read and used in classrooms that teach the true history of the United States of America as far as it pertains to the African Americans and the blacks, or blacks, whichever one you choose to use. Brian Hoodie, good morning. Good morning. Appreciate support. Just a little more, so I want to stick out there and make you think. Why aren't the politicians hell-bent on the N-word being used in music and different things, movies, all these different things we hear it in? But they're hell-bent on stopping you and your children from learning about critical race theory and the 1619 Project, and so on, and so on, and so on. Mr. Sarver is not an anomaly. He's not an individual one. He's not the only one. But those that are out there and feel comfortable using the word, you have to ask yourself, why do they feel so comfortable? Why do they feel so comfortable? Question, why do we feel so comfortable using the N-word? We shouldn't, because we shouldn't be using it at all, in my opinion. Kamiko Soul King, good morning. Boomer, appreciate support. We got to get better. We have to get better. Voting watch. Let's talk about voting for a minute. Well, it's going to be a little bit. You know, I've talked about voting. This is mid-September. Primaries are November 3rd. A lot of things that we need to be paying attention to, a lot of things, and I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, or what affiliation. I've said this many times before, what affiliation you may have as far as your political preference, as far as who you're voting in office. Whatever you choose to do, all I ask is that you do the research on the people. Do the research on the people. And you know, what I'm getting ready to talk about should open your eyes to the fact that this is not about doing for the people. It's about power and control. It's about power and control and having the right to say that the Republicans are the majority. The Democrats are the majority. That's all it's about. For them to be able to make legislation that doesn't take care of everybody, but what they deem necessary to line their pockets. And I'll get into this. In this voting watch that I printed out, at least 11 Republican nominees for state elections chief have disputed the legitimacy of the 2020 election. In at least 11 states, the Republican nominee for the job of overseeing future elections is someone who has questioned, rejected, or tried to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Now, I know we've talked about this before, but these are the 11 people, 11 Republican nominees that are running for will be state election chiefs, who are election deniers to the 10th power. They are in Alabama. And if you're part of this, or if you know people that live here, you need to let them know this. You need to pass this word on. In Alabama, Wes Allen. Arizona, Mark Fincham. Connecticut, Dominique Rapini. Indiana, Diego Morales. Massachusetts, Rayla Campbell. Michigan, Christina Caramo. Minnesota, Kim Crockett. Nevada, Jim Marchant. New Mexico, Audrey Trujillo. Vermont, H. Brooke Page. Wyoming, Chuck Gray. These 11 people, these 11 Republican nominees are all election deniers. These election deniers are running for state elections chief. These are the ones that are going to dictate how elections are done, how you vote, and when you can vote, and in the manner you can vote, mail-in voting, all these things. And they have the power. They have the power in this position to go against what the will of the people say in their votes if they don't agree with the outcome of the vote. Let me say that again. They have the power to overrule the majority vote in that state if they don't feel that the person won is who they want to win. I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm trying to scare you because this is where we're at now. They're not doing the tactics of trying to overthrow the Capitol anymore. They're using their tactics to get embedded into the system. They're trying to get in where they're election chiefs, where they can dictate what goes on with the elections, with the voting machines, all the different things that they were bringing up in the last election when they would say there's fraud and all that, which has never been proven. Let's just be real. None of the fraud that these people talk about has ever been proven to have happened at the mass that they're talking about. And the only one they always argue about is the president. They never argue about any down ballot. They only argue about the president. But these 11 Republicans have come out and actually stated that they will do whatever they can to make sure that their nominee, who they want elected, will be elected in any race if they're put into that position. Be aware. If you live in any of those states where these 11 Republicans are running, and then you might want to look at the other places too, because even though they may not be on this list, who's to say they are the election deniers that are running for these positions? Also, you have more than half of the GOP governor nominees have questioned or denied the legitimacy of the 2020 election. More than half of the GOP governor nominees, Republican governor nominees in these states. And it says the Republican nominee in at least 22 of this year's 36 gubernatorial races is someone who has rejected, declined to affirm, raised doubts about, or tried to overturn Joe Biden's victory in the 2020 election. These are governors. Governors. You remember when I mentioned that we pay attention to the Senate and the Congress, and we just go in there and check boxes at the state legislature, state level governors, aldermen, election officials, judges. We just check the boxes. We don't do our research because it's not national news, it's local news. And a lot of times we don't pay attention to the local news. But what I'm telling you right now is there's 22 of 36 governor races, gubernatorial, whatever you want to call it. And it's someone who has rejected, declined to affirm, raised doubts about, or tried to overturn Joe Biden's victory in the 2020 election. Here they go. Alabama, Kay Ivey. Notice Alabama's on there under the state elections chief and the governor. Alabama, Kay Ivey. Alaska, Mike Dunleavy. Arizona, Kari Lake. Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. California, Brian Dale. Colorado, Heidi Ganahl. Florida, Ron DeSantis. Florida, Ron DeSantis. Idaho, Brad Little. Illinois, Darren Bailey. Iowa, Kim Reynolds. Kansas, Derek Schmidt. Maine, Paul LePage. Maryland, Dan Cox. Massachusetts, Jeff Deal. Michigan, Tudor Dixon. Minnesota, Scott Jensen. Nevada, Joe Lombardo. New York, Lee Zeldin. Pennsylvania, Doug Mastriano. South Dakota, Kristi Noem. Texas, Greg Abbott. And Wisconsin, Tim Michels. 22 people, Republican nominees running for governor, are all election deniers, saying that there was fault, fraud, whatever you want to talk about, saying Joe Biden is not legitimate as the president, all the things you've heard about. These 22 people that I just named in these 22 states are running to be governor. If you live there, be aware. If you don't, let them know. If you know people that live there, you better put them on notice. Also, more than half of Republican Senate nominees have rejected, cast doubt upon, or tried to overturn the 2020 election results. More than half of the Republican nominees for the 35 U.S. Senate seats being contested in the 2022 midterms have challenged the legitimacy of the 2020 election, rejecting, raising doubts about, or taking steps to overturn President Joe Biden's victory. A CNN analysis found that at least 19 of this year's Republican nominees have contested or refused to affirm the 2020 results. So let me break this down. 19 Republican senators that are running are election deniers. 11 Republican nominees for Secretary of State are election deniers. 22 Republican nominees for governor are election deniers. U.S. senators generally have less power over elections than secretaries of state and governors do, but they do have the power to object to certifying electoral votes, to write and vote on election legislation, and sometimes to hold hearings and issue subpoenas on election issues. Let's run them down. Alabama, all three positions. Katie Britt. Arizona, Blake Masters. California, Mark Muser. Georgia, Herschel Walker. Georgia, Herschel Walker. Georgia, Herschel Walker. I'm saying that so the people in Georgia can hear me. Georgia, Herschel Walker. Kentucky, Rand Paul. Louisiana, John Kennedy. Maryland, Chris Chaffee. Missouri, Eric Schmidt. Nevada, Adam Laxalt. New Hampshire, Don Bolduc. Let me go back to him in a minute. North Carolina, Ted Bunn. Ohio, J.D. Vance. Oklahoma, James Langford. Oklahoma. Oh, they got two of them in Oklahoma. Mark Wayne Mullen. Oregon, Joe Ray Perkins. Pennsylvania, Mehmet Oz. Utah, Mike Lee. Washington, Tiffany Smiley. And Wisconsin, Ron Johnson, who we'll be talking about in a minute. But let me go back to New Hampshire, Don Bolduc. He was one of the many generals that signed a letter saying that they didn't feel the election was legitimate. It was 100 and some generals, retired generals organization. It said that they didn't think that the election was legitimate. But he's running. And he even mentioned, I'm sorry, he said, I signed a letter with 120 other generals and admirals saying that Donald Trump won the election, and damn it, I stand by it. Now, this is what he said before he got the nomination. Now that he has the nomination, he's the Republican nominee to run for this Senate seat. He just came out this week in an interview, and he said, after stuttering for a multitude of times, and he said, and I quote, well, I don't know the whole quote, so I'm not going to quote it. But what he said in text was, people change. You know, we look at the data, and we found out that, you know, maybe it wasn't what I thought it was. And all. Now, this is after he got the nomination, right? So what he did was he used the nomination time period to get the nomination. He used this verbiage about how he voted against it and Joe Biden is not a legitimate president to get the votes of the Trumpers, the MAGA people, to get him elected, put in for the nomination. Now that he has the nomination, he's trying to change course because now he's trying to capture a whole nother level of demographic to include the MAGA people. Because what he's saying up on that stage is different than what he's saying behind closed doors in these speeches and things that they go to that we never hear about. All I'm telling everybody out there, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, and I know these are all Republican positions. But the reason I'm telling you about the Republican positions is because there's something I'm going to talk about in a minute. It's going to bring up the fact of why I'm so hell-bent about paying attention to what these Republicans are doing. And this is because, you know, we have to step back and look of who's doing for who. Who's doing for who? And in the case I'm talking about, we got Ron Johnson, which I mentioned, who's running for re-election. He's running for a third term in November. But Republican U.S. Senator Ron Johnson recently said Medicare and Social Security should be subjected to annual budget deliberations, a move that could upend guaranteed benefits relied upon by millions of Americans. Now, let's just be clear on this. Medicare and Social Security you pay into over the time and the lifespan of your working career. You pay into Medicare and Social Security so that when you get to a retirement age, you can collect on the money that you've been paying into. If I'm wrong about that, somebody call in, but that's what I know to be true. What a lot of people don't understand is federal spending. When they talk about shutting the government down every year, which they're talking about it again coming up, talking about doing a continuing resolution, because we're coming into October, the beginning of the new fiscal year for FY23. So they had to come up with a budget. If they don't come up with a budget, they keep using this continuing resolution that goes back years and years and years to say that the budget that we had then is what we're going to continue working off of because we can't come to an agreement. So this comes up annually, every year. And the way it breaks down is this: federal spending is broken down into two baskets. I'm trying to educate y'all a little bit here. And I don't say educate, but I'm trying to give you the knowledge. Let's go there. Federal spending is broken down into two baskets: discretionary spending, which comes in annual appropriations in areas like defense and public works, and mandatory spending that is generally governed by statute and includes entitlement programs like Social Security and Medicare that provide guaranteed benefits. So there's discretionary spending, mandatory spending. At this particular time, mandatory spending covers Medicare and Social Security. Those things are going to be mandatory no matter what. That money is always going to be there to be used for what it was meant to be used for. Senator Johnson, as well as others in the Republican Party that don't just come out and say it, suggested that he seeks to turn everything, watch this now, everything in the federal budget into discretionary spending, including Social Security and Medicare, so that programs can be evaluated and fixed. Where have we heard this before? With the Affordable Care Act, they keep saying that it needs to go away. They need to abolish it. They need to get rid of it. Then out their mouths, they'll say, "Oh, we need to fine tune it and change everything." But then after they start talking about fine tuning and change everything, then they're back to let's just get rid of it. They're trying to do the same thing with your Social Security and your Medicare. And those out there that choose to vote Republican, let me talk to you for a minute, because I've said this before and I'll say it again. You choose to vote Republican, but you're not paying attention to the fact you're the ones, just like me and all the constituents that I have, we're the ones that are going to lose out if they're able to put this in this discretionary into the discretionary budget, where it has to come up every year and they budget off of what they think they can pay, not what they're supposed to pay. Which means that a lot of people that depend on Medicare and Social Security will not get the same amount of money. You will not get the return on your investment of what you paid out. You will lose benefits more than you will gain benefits if the Republicans are able to change how Medicare and Social Security is done as far as what bank of money they sit in. They have already years ago taken money from Social Security and put it towards something else, which they shouldn't have been able to do, but they did. Which is why the cause of you hear people talking about Social Security is going to run out by 20 something, or Medicare will be bankrupt by 20 something. But I'll give you the example that I use. I've been working since I was 14, 15 years old. And I've been paying into Social Security since I was 14, 15 years old. The money they've been taking out of my check, FICA, whatever them names are on there, has been coming out of my check every month or every payday since I was 14 years old when I first got my first job. With the understanding that when I became retirement eligible, that money would be there for me to be able to ride off into the sunset and recoup the money that I've paid into that account. No harm, no foul. But every time an election comes around, or every time the Republicans feel that they are going to get power, they start talking about what they're going to take away from us more than what they're going to do for us. Let me say that again. They talk about more of what they're going to take away than what they're going to do. They always talk about their conservative, the spending and all that, but they have no problem spending money for things like tax cuts for the wealthy. Ron Johnson will get a check. He will get a check and free medical care until the day he dies for serving one term in the Senate. While you and me, who have paid into Social Security years and years and years and years, have to wonder if that money's going to be there when I get ready to walk out the door and say I'm done working. Now, I don't care. As I said, I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're Democrat. I don't care if you're independent. I look at you as a tax-paying citizen, as well as a Social Security, putting your money in there just like it's a 401k. But they want to take that away from you, and you're okay with voting these people in who have come out of their mouths to tell you this is what their plan is. Wake up. That money is your money. Why should they be able to dictate where your money goes, how much money you should get when you've paid into this? That's like saying that your 401k that you paid into, that whatever organization you were with, or whatever job you had, or whatever people you worked for, you've paid in your 401k from the time you started up until you got ready to retire. And in your mind, you're thinking, ooh, when I retire, boy, I'm going to get this check every month, a certain amount of money, because I paid into this 401k. Now, mind you, stock market goes up and down with the 401k. You may lose a little here, lose a little, but you still got your money in there. And you've banked on this money to come to you. And then them people you work for, that organization you work for, when you got ready to pull your 401k and you say, yeah, I want my money, I want it monthly rather than a lump sum. I want y'all to give me this money every month. And they tell you, well, we're going to give you money, but we're not going to give you the money that we said we would match. See where I went there? We're going to give you your money, but we're only going to give you the money that you put in, not the amount of money that we said we would match. Because I'll go out on a limb and say most people that have put into a 401k in any organization, they have a thing that they call up to a 3% or 5% match of whatever you put in, which causes the increase of your money that you're putting in. It gives you, the purpose of putting it in there, because if they're going to match it, that means they're going to double up on whatever you decide to put in, or triple. But if they came to you at the end of that agreement and told you that they're not going to give you any of the money that they were supposed to match for those 20, 30 years that you worked for them, and only going to give you what you put in, and keep the amount of money that they were supposed to match that they've gained interest off of the whole time, that's exactly what they're doing with Social Security and Medicare. Everything you've put in, they want to dictate how much you get of your own money. And you're okay with that. Johnson said that as long as things are on automatic pilot, we just continue to pile up debt, mortgage our kids' future. This massive debt burden, combined with this massive deficit spending that sparked this inflation that's wiping out people's wage gains, making it impossible for them to make ends meet. Again, this didn't just happen. The fact that you're struggling economically, it's because of Democrat governance and Democrat policies in the federal government that is spending way more money than it should and doing things that never was even envisioned by our founding fathers to be doing. Stop right there. You ever notice that anytime they wanted to go back to the founding fathers never even established a Social Security program. The founding fathers did not establish a Social Security program. But every time they want to try to make a point of the country, they say the founding fathers. Do you think the founding fathers would have been okay with January 6th? That's just a rhetorical question. When I read these articles, when I hear these interviews, when I watch these things that these people are doing, and then I see the posts that people put underneath them about how they support them and how the Democrats are this or the Republicans are that and all these different things. Because don't get me wrong, I'm not saying, and I've said it many times, that the Democrats are above board on everything they do as well. I'd never have said that. However, when is the last time that you heard Democrats, when they were in power, had the presidency, the Senate, and the House, or any of the things like that, talked about taking something away from you, something that your blood, sweat, and tears has invested in over years and years and years? When is the last time you heard them say, we're going to take this away? Now think about, when is the last time you heard Republicans talk about giving the normal everyday citizen at this level anything that benefits them and their growth potential as far as earning income, medical care, tax relief, affordable housing. You want me to keep going? When is the last time you heard Republicans? And if you sit back, and I'll give all y'all exercise. I'm not saying it's work to do. We'll give you exercise. When you have time over the next week, as these elections are going, because you should be paying attention, I want you to listen to what the people that are running for these offices are talking about doing. Listen to what they're talking about doing. The only thing they're talking about doing at this time is trying to have a do-over for the 2020 election. They want to hold people accountable for the 2020 election. They want to impeach Joe Biden for winning the 2020 election. They want to push Merrick Garland out and hold him in contempt for what he's doing right now. Why? This is supposed to be, as they say, a democracy. This country was built on a democracy. But all you hear certain people talk about is what they're going to do to somebody, never for somebody. We're going to do this to the Democratic Party. We're going to take away this from the Democratic Party. Never do you hear them say, we're going to do this for the American people. We're going to take care of this for the American people. We're going to ensure that when you get ready to retire, that you and your children will have the Social Security program as it is today, still in effect. Not to eliminate it, not to put it under a program where it has to be evaluated every year, where the money can go up or down depending on the budget. We pay into this. But they don't care. They don't care. Case in point, transition a little bit. This week, there was an oversight hearing on climate change. Rhea Salter, an energy justice lawyer who serves on the New York State Climate Action Council, was invited to testify before House lawmakers during a hearing about the oil and gas industry's lack of accountability and major role in the climate crisis. And we've heard this since I was a kid, about the smokestacks and how it's affecting the environment and so on and so forth. She said that the climate crisis is an unprecedented global crime and the smoking gun lies in the hands of big oil and gas. We've heard that for years. We've heard it for years. Salter, a Black woman, talked about the disproportionate impact that the fossil fuel industry has had on Black and brown communities, as well as low-income families. She said that corporations are trying to shift the blame for the climate crisis to individual consumers and environmental activists instead of focusing on the real solution, transitioning away from fossil fuels. But then there's a Representative Clay Higgins from Louisiana, Republican, and he wasn't buying her testimony. And he did an open-ended question to her. He said, everything you have, your clothes, your glasses, your car, you got here in, your phone, the table you're sitting at, the chair, the carpet under your feet, everything you got is petrochemical products, Higgins said. What would you do with that? Tell the world, is what he asked her. And she said, if I had that power in the world, actually, I don't need that power, because what I would do is ask you, sir, from Louisiana, to search your heart and understand why the EPA knows that toxic petrochemical facilities are some of the most toxic polluting facilities in the world and are killing Black people throughout Louisiana. He retorted, my good lady. Now they're arguing, they're going over top of each other's voice. And he said to her, my good lady, I'm trying to give you the floor, boo. My good lady, I'm trying to give you the floor, boo. He said as he was speaking over her. Higgins then tried to bring his religion into this discussion, saying that he's an environmentalist from a biblical perspective because he believes God gave humans the power to care for the planet. She said, sir, if we're going to talk about the Lord, I ask that you search your heart again and think about repenting, because the fossil fuel industry that owns your state is destroying the earth and the natural world. And that is a fact, sir. Higgins continued to shout over her as he expressed his belief that Salter lacks solutions to the issues she's presented to Congress. He said, you know what you got, young lady? You got a lot of noise, but you got no answers. and he called her an unhinged climate activist. Let's go back to when he called her boo. Now, we all know in the community, calling somebody boo is a term of endearment, they say. But for him to use the word to call her boo, number one, he don't know her. Number two, if she was a woman of a different a background, not an African American woman, black woman, but if she was, would he have called her boo? See, the disrespect that we see, and I'm just gonna go on a little tangent here, so y'all bear with me, but the disrespect we see towards black women. From the rap lyrics that are used in the music, and I'm going back here again to the B word, calling them hoes, all these different things we've heard through rap lyrics, all through time that it's been out, in conversations that we do and disregard them, that people just don't realize, or they fail to admit to the fact that African American black women are the most educated women in the United States of America, probably on the planet. But when they get in these positions and they get in these environments where they're speaking what they know from their education and their background and what they've learned, and someone decides to call them out of their name, not out of respect, but to condescend, to call her boo, we should all be in an uproar about this. I don't care who you are, because it was disrespectful, number one. And then this is supposed to be a sitting congressman. And they have rules that they do in Congress, that they have to be a certain way, that comes from the English background, the monarchy and all that, that how they do everything in the Senate and the Congress is structured and by tradition and all this. But it seems that the only time that we hear disrespect as far as calling someone out of their name is when we see women of color sitting in front of them telling what they know to be true by what their research has been. Why? Why? So we see the disrespect from him calling her boo. But then we have the disrespect of other folks. Lynn Sewell, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate support. I was flipping through Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. I can't remember which one it was. And I seen this video where this young African-American black girl was watching TV. And it was a new trailer for The Little Mermaid. And the little girl was sitting there and she was fascinated with the music and everything that was going on. And she keeps turning around to her mom and she's saying, "Oh, mom, look at the mermaid. Look at the mermaid." She's fascinated, right? But the look on her face when they finally showed the Little Mermaid's face in this trailer brought a tear to my eye. It brought a tear to my eye because to see how excited this young black girl was to see someone that looked like her playing that role. Representation matters. We say it all the time. Representation matters. And then in that same context, when she's seen her and says she looks like me, it may have been a different clip, but I looked at a couple of them. One little girl was saying, "Black girl magic, mama, black girl magic." All because of the representation, to see someone that looked like her playing the Little Mermaid in a movie role. And then to go on to the internet at different places. Erica Rasoon, good morning. Hey, what's going on, young lady? Trying to disparage them, break them, not knowing it's impossible. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you for the input. And you're right. They're trying to break them down. You're trying to break them down. But then I go to the internet after the fact, and I see all these disparaging comments about why did they choose to change who Ariel is and who she looks like. Why did they decide to put a black girl in that role? They could have left it alone. This is going too far. Newsflash. Y'all know Ariel's a fictional character, right? The mermaid in The Little Mermaid is a fictional character. You know that, right? Just like you in an uproar, people were in an uproar about when they talked about Idris Elba becoming the next 007. You know, 007 is a fictional character, right? You know that there are blacks and African Americans in England, right? Just putting it out there in case people didn't know. But there's also an uproar about, and I don't watch this, but I was reading this. It said The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, an Amazon Prime series that is a prequel to the Lord of the Rings franchise, and House of the Dragon, an HBO series that is a prequel to Game of Thrones, both debuted recently to rave reviews. Even as fans rave daily about both series, there is rumbling in the background of disgruntled fans who are upset that that black actors are in roles that they believe should be played by white people because there were actually no black people during the time of dragons and wizards and magic and stuff. Let me read that again so you can hear how ignorant that sounds. There's rumblings in the background of disgruntled fans who are upset that black actors are in roles that they believe should be played by white people because there were actually no black people during the time of dragons and wizards and magic and stuff. Wow. Wow. This is 2022. 2022. And we still have people who feel that certain people should not be shown in certain light because they feel it takes away from the meaning or the message of what the story is about. Wow. I Big Al, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate the support. So it brought me to this other article that was attached to this. It said 1940s, Kenneth and Mamie Clark, a married black psychological research couple, conducted a groundbreaking study on how black children view their racial identity, known as the doll test. Everybody's probably heard of that, but let me give you a little history. The parents tested how black kids reacted when given the choice to play with both black dolls and white dolls. Sadly, they often preferred the white dolls and attributed positive values to them in comparison to speaking negatively about the black dolls. Even worse, many of them grew upset with having to identify with the black doll they had spoken ill about. The conclusion drawn from this study was that color in a racist society was a very disturbing and traumatic component of an individual's sense of his own self-esteem and worth. Looking at where Black Americans were at that time, no Civil Rights Act, Jim Crow laws in effect, and segregation tolerated, it should come as no surprise that Black children suffered from low self-esteem. Black people were living in a world where it was legal to treat them as second-class citizens. Now, this study was done back in 1940. This is why when I see those young girls so excited to see someone that looks like them playing the role of Ariel in The Little Mermaid, it brought a tear to my eye. Because representation matters. Representation matters. It may not matter to you per se, but to a child. Think about a child who is trying to understand the way this world works and the way this world operates, to have representation and see it at that young age, oh, could make all the difference in the world. But we still have people out here who truly feel in their heart that a fictional character should only be played by somebody white. And if you look at Ariel in The Little Mermaid, she wasn't really white. I'll just be real. She had a little tannish color too. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. People probably like, how you know about The Little Mermaid? Hey, don't judge me. I'm just giving you information. Let's just be real here. This is where we're at. This is why I tell you, when we talk about the banning of the books, taking things off the shelf, not wanting you to know about critical race theory and the 1619 Project, trying to take Social Security away from certain people, the poverty levels in Mississippi, these things still go on today in 2022. But most people want to put up this thing of saying racism is not alive. You know, biases don't matter. All the different things you can talk about that they say, it matters. It truly, truly matters. Let's get into this. Mind, Body, and Soul, Mind, Body, and Soul, year 2022. We're taking it 1,440 moments. You get 1,440 minutes. We're taking each and every one as a moment out of this 24-hour day. Wake up each morning. Thank God for giving you another day to enjoy this life. Today's Mind, Body, and Soul is a quote that by yours truly. And it's a long one, but bear with me. And the quote says, the relationships that we build with others will change over time. Some will grow stronger while some will grow apart. Never take for granted any relationship, for it did serve a purpose in your life. Let me read that one more time. The relationships that we build with others will change over time. Some will grow stronger while some will grow apart. Never take for granted any relationship, for it did serve a purpose in your life. You know, we hear people, reason, season, lifetime is what they say people come into your life for. And we talk about relationships that we have through our times. We have good relationships, we have bad relationships, we have those mediocre relationships, but they're all considered relationships because there was something that drew both of you together. And when we talk about relationships, it doesn't always mean any type of relationship like boyfriend, girlfriend, marriage, or anything. That could be friendship, could be family relationships. All those are considered. But what we do is sometimes we tend to look at all the negative parts of a relationship that may have gone wrong, rather than look at the positives of what we gained from being in the relationship at the time. Some of us, me included, have been in relationships where children were born from those relationships. And in those relationships, when they grow apart and we go our separate ways, there's animosity in some of those places and things like that. But one thing that we don't think about is that the children that were evolved from those relationships were a part of that relationship, because you would never, in my opinion, children are developed in a relation out of a relationship for a reason. Now, you'll have some people that say, oh, well, the pregnancy wasn't planned or anything like that, but a child was born. A child was brought in this world. And sometimes you would think a child will bring you closer together, but sometimes it tears you further apart. But the one thing we forget is that a child was born, and then sometime in that relationship, that those two people had to have some type of tight relationship in order for them to get to the point where they were co-parenting and all these different things that you think about when a child is involved. But the one thing we always hear about is how bad the relationship was. No one ever talks about a relationship that is in their past, about how good it was. I'm not sure if it's because they don't want to hurt the person that they're with now, if they don't want to concentrate on The past when it was good with that person, or the fact that they just want other folks to see that person they were in a relationship, even though it was good, in a different light. But that relationship, any relationship you have, whether it breaks up, whether it's a friendship, family you don't talk to, any of those type of things, everything in that relationship was not always bad. And the reason I say that it was not always bad is because you had a relationship somehow, some way, where you had a happy medium that you came to in order to have that relationship. When we grow apart from people, it's always the negativity that is included in that. Why don't you talk to that person no more? And all this kind of stuff. Oh, I ain't deal with him no more, this, that, or I don't deal with her no more, this and that. Whatever. Never once do we stop to catch ourselves to say, you know what? The relationship grew apart. We grew differently and everything. I have no hate for that person. I have no discord for that person. I wish that person well. But instead of saying that, we like, oh, that person ain't this, they ain't that. I can't stand them. They used to do this, they used to do that. Anything negative that you tend to overlook in a good relationship on a daily basis, you pinpoint about an old relationship that is no longer there. See, in a relationship that we want to work, that we're in a relationship that is working well, we never pinpoint and we never concentrate on what's bad about our relationship. We overlook it. We move on from it. We don't hold on to it until it's over. And then everything that was bad in the relationship, even though you worked through it, even though you stayed in there and you fought for it, everything that was bad in that relationship, when it's over, comes to the forefront. And that's all that's ever remembered about that relationship, is the negative. But if you sit back and think, those relationships you've had that that are no longer there was something positive about that relationship that you took from it. It helped you become better in your next relationship. It helped you become better in the person you are. It helped you become better because whatever was wrong, there was just as much right. And we always point the finger at what the other person did wrong rather than pointing the finger at ourselves at what we could have done better. Sometimes we have to step back and eliminate the negativity from everything we talk about and look at the positive of what came out of whatever we were involved in. Every job you've ever had, you didn't leave because you hated it, because you stayed there a certain amount of time because of your livelihood. And every time you leave a job, you don't always talk about what was negative about it. You talk about the good things as well. Some of you have friends that were at old jobs that you have that are still there. You don't talk negative about the job while you're there. Y'all may get together and talk negative about a supervisor. But as far as the job itself, it served its purpose. And that's where I'm going here. Every relationship you were in, right, wrong, indifferent, how it ended, served its purpose. Reason, season, lifetime. It served its purpose. Once the purpose is done, rather than sitting back and looking at everything negative about that relationship, look at the positive of it. Look what you gained from it. You can also look at what you lost from it, because sometimes what you lost from the relationship is a positive more than a negative. The relationships that we build with others will change over time. Some will grow stronger while some will grow apart. Never take for granted any relationship, for it did serve a purpose in your life. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Next week, baby. Next week, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. OT will be hosting the Speak On the Show 10-year anniversary, y'all. 10 years, 10 years, 10 years. I'm a little overwhelmed knowing I was looking at something the other day and I reposted it, that I actually posted. It came up in my memories about the day that the show was going to start. It was September 29th, 2012. September 29th, 2012 was the first show I ever did with the Speak On. A lot of changes, a lot of logo changes, a lot of look changes, a lot of background changes, a whole lot of changes in what we've been doing on this show over the last 10 years. But I'm excited. I'm excited. And I'm going to put the information out there like I did before. As a matter of fact, let me go back there to so everybody can get it. If you want to reach out to OT show at live.com. Phone number 678-254-8557. Reach out to them if you want to be one to comment. I'll put the link up where if you want to do a video in, or the phone lines will be open as well. we're just gonna have some fun next week. We're just gonna talk about. I think OT is gonna be doing kind of an interview. I don't know what he's gonna ask or anything like that, but all I ask is if you call in, you decide to make a comment about the show or talk to me, do on the show or do a video thing, just don't make me cry. Don't make me cry. You know, I'm sensitive like that. You know, when those flowers are given to you, and sometimes you don't know how to receive, miss emotional. So I'm prepared for it. We're gonna do what we do next week, and I appreciate each and every one of you. If you can't listen next week, I appreciate you for tuning in as you always do, commenting as you always do, and being supportive of me, being supportive of what I'm trying to do and what we're doing here. And also my support and my thanks to OT for putting me on this platform to be able to do what I do every Saturday morning. And as I always say before we sign off, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely, most definitely, most definitely keep your faith in God. I'm out. I'll see y'all next week. I love y'all. I'm trying to get this stuff right. 10 years, baby. We'll see y'all next week, and I'm out. Peace.